Hey, what is going on, guys? It is VengeanceHD here today, and as you can see, I'm giving my full NFL 2016 playoff predictions and my rundown of basically every game. So, we're going to get right into the most exciting time of the year for NFL fans with the first game, which is happening tomorrow, I believe at 1:30 or 1:15, something like that. It's going to be the early game for the AFC Chiefs and Texans. So let's look at this matchup. Kansas City is 11-5. They play second in the AFC West versus the Texans, 9-7, first place in the AFC South. Let's take a look at the coaches. Andy Reid is 161, 110 in a tie. He's 10-10 in the playoffs versus Bill O'Brien, who is 18-14, and he is 0-0 in the playoffs. So interesting. Bill O'Brien makes his first trip to the playoffs. Andy Reid's been there a couple of times, so it's going to be interesting to see who wins that game. So let's see how the Chiefs got here. In October, the Chiefs are 1-5 and had just lost Jamal Charles, but they haven't lost a game since. If it wasn't for Ron Rivera, being the great coach that he is over in Carolina, Andy Reid would definitely be one of the best candidates for Coach of the Year. And one of the best quarterbacks in the league they have at helm, Alex Smith. He's completely underrated. To travesty, he has a 65.3 completion percentage, which is amazing. And he's got a defense who's allowed 17.9 points a game, which is crazy. And they're definitely one of the most dangerous teams in the postseason because they're healthy. They have great players on both sides of the ball, and they can get this thing moving, and they can make a run deep into the playoffs. And as you'll see, I have them going particularly deep. So let's take a look at the other side of the ball. The Houston Texans, they have a quarterback travesty, but they've been carried here due to the work of J.J. Watt and DeAndre Hopkins on both sides of the ball. DeAndre Hopkins has 111 catches, 1,521 yards, and 11 touchdowns, and that's what helped Houston get here. A 9-7 record isn't that great, but the Texans, they've beat 5 of their last 9, and they've held them to exactly 6 points. So, when you can hold 5 of your last 9 opponents to a combined 6 points, that has to say something about your team and how good your defense is. And if that offense can put up a touchdown, just one, then you can beat any opponent by a point. And a win's a win in the NFL, especially in the playoffs, because this isn't the MLB and this isn't the NBA. It's a one and done. You lose, you're out. So let's look at some key players, highlighting some guys that I think are going to have a big impact on the game. J.J. Watt and Alex Smith. If Kansas City can't contain the best defensive player on the planet, Andy Reid's game plan will be thrown down the gutter, per se. Alex Smith is, he's crazy in the playoffs. His QB rating in the playoffs is 108.6, and I think that if he gets a win against this really good Texans defense, it's gonna, kind of clear up all that negative perception about Alex Smith, I guess you could say. Really, what I should be saying is, when you look at Alex Smith, people think of him as like just another mediocre run-of-the-mill quarterback, but he's really not. He's really good. I would definitely trade Eli Manning for Alex Smith if I had the option to, but I don't, because I'm not Jerry Reese. So yeah, just when you look at it, Alex Smith, he's really good in the playoffs, and I feel like the Chiefs' offensive line can at least contain J.J. Watt for the time, and hopefully that time is enough for the Kansas City offense to put up a couple points. So it's going to be interesting to see here. It's going to be relatively low scoring, I think, anyway, particularly for the Texans, because I don't think that they have the offense to match the Chiefs' defense, because the Chiefs' defense is really good. And going up against such a bad offense, the only way that the Chiefs put up points is if you get DeAndre Hopkins to get into this game in a big way. And he needs to get into the game in a bigger way than he has all season long. Even including that game against Cincinnati when they snapped their winning streak. But you know, it's going to be really tough for Houston to muster anything really besides on defense. The Chiefs are just too much of a force, so that's why I got the Chiefs winning this one. I'm going to say, I'm giving this game 23-17 Chiefs. So that's my prediction for that game. Let's move on to the next wild card matchup that we have. Bengals and the Steelers. Oh man, this is good. Pittsburgh Steelers 10-6, second place in the AFC North, versus the Bengals, first place in the NFC North with a record of 12-4. The coaching battle: Mike Tomlin 92-52, 5-4 in the playoffs. Marvin Lewis 112-94 and 2 ties, 0-6 in the playoffs. That is a very key stat in my opinion. The 0-6 in the playoffs. It's kind of pathetic, but who knows? Anything can happen in any given day in the NFL. So let's take a look at how the Pittsburgh Steelers got to the playoffs. They lost Roethlisberger for 4 games, and they dropped Le'Veon Bell for 10 of those games. And they lost 2 games to the Ravens, and the Ravens are pretty awful. So you lose both games of the Ravens, you lose your star running back, you lose your star quarterback for for 4 games, and that's pretty much planting the seeds for disaster in any season. But they got what the Steelers got what they needed. D'Angelo Williams helped in a big way. Antonio Brown and the other wide receivers in that core, they stepped up in a major way. Ben Roethlisberger's been making the throws. He's got the pocket awareness. The offensive line's blocking good. The defense is playing well. They're playing really well. They've been holding some really good teams to a few points, except for that game against the Browns. I really don't think that that game should have been as close as it was for as long as it was. But hey, like I said earlier, a win's a win. Pittsburgh's going to take that, and they're going to get right into the playoffs, and they trump the Jets. And you know, I'm a Giants fan, so I don't see any other. I don't want to see any other New York team make the playoffs. So let's take a look at how our resident Bengals got here. The best overall roster in the AFC. Yes, I said it. They did what they're used to doing, and that's winning in the regular season. Since 2011, the Bengals have won at least 9 games every year and made the postseason in each season. Even without Andy Dalton, who broke a bone in his thumb or something along those lines. He's going to be out for maybe this week and next week. I think next week's a stretch, but this week definitely he's out. He's already been upgraded, or he's already been downgraded out. Cincinnati was able to get the first round, or not the first round, the divisional title, I should say. They were able to get the division even without some of their key guys being there for a while. They had Tyler Eifert out with a concussion for a couple of weeks, and Andy Dalton breaking that bone in his hand. But A.J. McCarron, he's one of my key players for this game, along with Pittsburgh's Antonio Brown. When you look at the Bengals, it's going to be at least a week or at least one more week of McCarron, and that's going to be this playoff game. So if they're able to win this game, which is not an easy feat if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, and under your current head coach, you've won exactly 0 out of 6 tries. And I know some of their past tries have been really dampened by injuries. They've got, a couple of years ago when they went up against the Colts, I think it was the Colts, and they had just literally nobody. They had a lot of backups starting at really key positions that you need to win a football game. And, when Carson Palmer went out, I think it was a torn ACL in the middle of a game. I think that the Bengals are cursed whenever they get into the playoffs, so don't be surprised if you see something bad happen to A.J. McCarron, knock on wood. Nobody wants to see that, but I'm just saying don't be surprised. But let's look on the other side of the field at the Steelers, who have Antonio Brown. This season, the most productive wide receiver, 136 catches, 1,834 yards, and 10 touchdowns. He has to have a huge night against a really good Bengals defense. The Bengals defense, they need to hold the Steelers to They need to hold them to a few points in order to secure a win, because I don't know how productive the Bengals offense is going to be against a good defense without their star quarterback, rather. So it's gonna be tricky to see, what exactly transpires tomorrow night. So this one's really it's tough to look at. The Bengals on paper, I think that they have the better team. They've looked way more solid than the Steelers this season, and I just don't like the Steelers for some reason. I have this nagging feeling that if I pick them, they're going to come out in a miraculous fashion and disappoint me. So I'm going to have to go with the Bengals. I'm trying to think of a score here that I want to take. I'll go 30-20, Bengals. It's going to be high scoring. You can bet your bottom dollar that it's going to be high scoring. And in just a moment here, I'm going to take a quick break on the recording, and we'll get right back with the NFC side of the wild card round. Alright, and now we're going to kick off the NFC side of the wild card round with the Packers and the Redskins. This one's interesting because not very many people are giving the Washington Redskins a fighting chance, but I'm going to tell you why that's false. Even coming from a Giants fan, I'm going to tell you why you're dead wrong saying that the Redskins are going to lose this game. So let's take a look at the matchup. Green Bay Packers, 10-6, second place in the NFC North. Washington Redskins, 9-7, first place in the NFC East. I'm crying on the inside, but who cares? The coaching battle, Mike McCarthy, 104-55 and one tie, 7-6 in the postseason. Jay Gruden, 13-19 with a 0-0 record in the postseason. So that's interesting. Another game where head coach has no wins or losses in the postseason because he's never been. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jay Gruden and Bill O'Brien do respectively in their games in the coming days. So let's take a look at how Green Bay got here. Packers started 6-0, but after that the Packers went 4-6. If it wasn't for the Hale Rodgers on that Thursday night game in Detroit, they would be 3-7 since the 6-0 start, and that would be killer. And there's a really good chance that they could have lost all hope to be in the playoffs in the NFC North. I mean, just hear that out and think about it. Don't call me crazy, but there's a chance that it could have happened. It's just been off. Something's been off with the team all year long, even starting off 6-0. And I'm personally going to attribute it to the loss of one of my favorite players in the NFL, Jordy Nelson. He went down with an ACL tear in a game against the Steelers in August, which was a preseason game, in case you needed specification. So let's take a look at probably one of my least favorite teams in the NFL, the Washington Redskins. Predictions had them pegged to be 0-7 through the first 7 games of the season. And they predicted their coach to get fired before the midpoint in the season. A trip to the playoffs for them it's dumbfounding. Thanks to the decision to hand the quarterback role over to Kirk Cousins, this team has completely redirected itself, and they've gone into a bright light, and they have a good future ahead of them. As sad as it makes me say that coming from a Giants fan, but in case you are a Redskins fan out there, I'm just gonna say it once. You like that? Because I don't. Alright, let's take a look at some key players. Kirk Cousins and Clay Matthews on each side of the field. We all know about the you like that Vine, but Kirk Cousins is actually having a really good season. He has 23 touchdowns to 3 interceptions in the last 10 games. Can you believe that? That's something that you'd see coming out of Aaron Rodgers, but no, Aaron Rodgers, I think, has close to as many interceptions as he has touchdowns, which is not very Aaron Rodgers-like. But if Kirk Cousins is able to stay hot, the Redskins can rumble and tumble their way through the playoffs, until they meet a brick wall. Seattle. That was actually kind of weird. I don't know why I said it like that. You know what? Forget I ever said that. So, as for Clay Matthews, the Packers needed something on defense. They needed someone on defense, rather, to be able to make plays and change the game in their favor. And that's exactly what Clay Matthews has been for them this season. So it's a good thing that they have Clay, because he's pretty much going to be the only thing holding this game together for the Green Bay Packers. And now time to predict the score and winner. This one's not going to be pretty, in my estimation. Washington just has a really good defense. And Green Bay has no offensive line. Their guys up front have just been getting shredded lately. If you look at that game against the Cardinals, and what was it, 9 sacks on both of the quarterbacks combined, and I think 8 of them went to Aaron Rodgers. Like, that's not good. So I'm not sure if they're getting any of their offensive linemen back or not, but it's definitely kind of scary to think about. You just let up, 8 sacks in a game, or 8 or 9 sacks in a game. That was only, 2 weeks ago? And you're probably not mentally recovered from losing the division in shocking fashion to the team that you've been able to hold at bay for many years now, and the Minnesota Vikings, which happened last week. So, I'm going to take my crack at scoring this game. This might be bold, but I'm going to go... I'm going to say Redskins 27, Packers 21. Green Bay lost... here, let me reword that. Minnesota lost by winning last week because they have to face Seattle. So imagine if Green Bay had to go and face Seattle. But they get to face the Redskins, which should be a cakewalk, a walk in the park. It should be like taking candy from a baby. But it's not going to be that way because Kirk Cousins is playing at a level that I have not seen a quarterback in the Washington Redskins franchise play like since, Sammy Baugh. And I'm not even old enough to know who Sammy Baugh is, but I do it anyway. So that's my prediction for that game. It's not going to be pretty. I'm just letting you know that right now. So, man, that entire prediction session for that game was kind of all over the place, and I apologize. So, we're going to get right back into the swing of things with the NFC's second wild card matchup, and that is the Seattle Seahawks, who are sitting pretty at 10-6, second place in the NFC West, versus the Minnesota Vikings, 11-5, first place in the NFC North. The coaching battle: Pete Carroll, 93-67, 8-5 in the playoffs, versus Mike Zimmer, 18-14, 0-0 in the playoffs. So yet a third coach who is making their first run in the playoffs, and in my opinion, for all but one of these coaches who've never been, only one of them is going to come out with a win, and that's Jay Gruden of the Washington Redskins. Mike Zimmer, I'm sorry. You're not going to beat Seattle. So let's take a look at how the Seahawks got here. They started off 2-4, which is kind of not good for the two-time defending NFC champions. But then they went on to win 8 of 10 games down the stretch and secured another postseason run. And the defense isn't in the same realm it was 2 years ago and even last year. But Seattle has still led the league in points per game. And they've put up 17.3 points a game, which, that's not bad. And because, some games you put up only a couple field goals and a touchdown, or some games you put up 3 or 4 touchdowns. So, it just balances out. I don't like math, So don't ask me if that's even correct or not, because I don't know. I don't like math. And let's take a look at Russell Wilson. He's really stepped out here and become a good quarterback. Not even a good quarterback. He's becoming a really good quarterback. 4,000 passing yards. Or he's the first player in history, or the first fastest to get to 4,000 passing yards, 30 passing touchdowns, and 500 rushing yards in a season. You know what? That whole entire jamble made no sense. I'm going to re-say that. He's the first player in NFL history to record 4,000 pass yards, 30 pass touchdowns, and 500 rush touchdowns, or 500 rush yards in a season. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. Excuse me for that. So let's take a look at Minnesota and how they got here. The defense and Adrian Peterson is what helped the Minnesota Vikings get here, and the creative defensive scheme that the Vikings like to play is it's kind of tricky for certain teams when you take a look at it and you're kind of caught off guard. You're like, what am I looking at? You know. But I think that it's defense that is easily beatable by the Seahawks due to the fact that the Seahawks have already beaten them in dominating fashion this season. And the Vikings defense has only allowed 18.9 points a game, so they've allowed just more than the Seahawks are putting up. And for the first time in a while, the Minnesota Vikings have secured the NFC North, and Peterson sat out all of last year. AP did, and he came back and became the leading rusher in the NFL. He has 1,485 rushing yards on the season. So let's take a look at some key players. Teddy Bridgewater and Teddy Bridgewater and Russell Wilson. Those are the players that I'm looking at here. They both need to have big games in order for their team to win, because in my estimation, the Seattle run defense is stingy. It's going to hold AP, and then if Seattle gets out to a couple touchdown lead, then Minnesota's got themselves in a game where they have to pass, because they can't run the ball anymore when they're down 3 or 4 scores. So, and then we all know about the Seahawks secondary and their safeties and everything. It's not, of course, like it was years ago, but it's still really good, and it's not going to be just, you know, standing around picking flowers off the field waiting for Teddy Bridgewater to throw over them. They're going to be right in the face of these receivers. They're going to be playing some tough physical defense, and it's not going to be pretty. A lot of these games aren't going to be pretty here in Wild Card Round, but that's what you got to expect. And I think that this is the only game that's not going to be close. I think every other game is going to be close except for this one, because the Seahawks, in my estimation, are just too good. Their game earlier this season was 38-7. That happened in December. Bridgewater had 118 yards through the air, and I don't even know how many Russell Wilson had, but oh man, it's not like in my opinion, Minnesota has a chance. In my opinion, they don't. But let's take a look at the weather, because that is another key factor that's going to play into this game. It is going to be negative 19 degrees on Sunday at 1:05 p.m. And it's going to feel like negative 28 degrees because the wind is going to be at 20 kilometers an hour. That may or may not be wrong. I don't do metric, and that's why. But it says that the wind is blowing westward at 20 km an hour, and I'm guessing that's kilometers. So, not kilometers. There's no way that's right. Whatever, I don't care. So, it's not going to be easy for either team to do anything, because if you got the wind blowing like that, it's going to be difficult to kick field goals. It's going to be difficult to throw the ball. So, we might just see, I haven't even factored this into my predictions this entire time that I've been looking at this game. You can't throw the ball and win like that unless, you got a guy like Russell Wilson with a cannon arm, and he can fire that ball in tight spots. But when you have the wind blowing like that, it's going to be tough for any of these guys to throw the ball. So good luck to both of them. They're going to have to keep it on the ground, and I like Adrian Peterson more than... Well, because we don't know if Marshawn Lynch is going to be back for the game. That's the only thing. If Marshawn Lynch is back, I like Beast Mode over AP. If Marshawn Lynch isn't back, I like AP over whoever Seattle's starting in the backfield. But, time for my scoring predictions. I am going to give... hold on here. Alright, I got this game at 42-6. Now, I know you may be thinking, 42 points? What? 42 points? Yeah, 42 points. That's exactly where I'm going. The Seahawks have only gotten better since they faced Minnesota. And that's just my honest opinion on what's going to happen in that game. And my honest opinion, I feel like, is the truth. I feel like I'm a prophet of the football universe. And I feel like the playoffs are going to go the way that I predict them to, obviously. But, alright, that's it for the wild card round. We got the Chiefs and the Bengals winning on the AFC side, and the Redskins and the Seahawks winning on the NFC side. So let's take a look at the divisional round. And I've already done all the crunching of the numbers, and I've figured out who would be facing who in this scenario. So let's take a look at the first game on next Saturday, which would be Bengals and Patriots. And I'm not going to give you guys a full rundown of the wild card games like the full breakdown of the divisional games like I did with the wild card games, because I don't like to make my videos incredibly long, and this is already over 25 minutes, and that's kind of long for me. So I'm just going to give you guys a quick little rundown here. The Bengals and the Patriots. The Bengals have a good team, but they don't have a team that can put up enough points to be on the same field as the Patriots. You know what? I'm going to change that. I'm making a bold change right now to my playoff predictions. The Patriots, I'm not going to go with them. I don't like them right now. I don't like their defense, what they're doing, and I don't like their offensive line. They're going to have Gronk and Edelman and Amendola. You know, I don't care about Gronk and Edelman and Amendola. And I don't care about Tom Brady. If you don't have an offensive line to hold you up, then you're going to get knocked down. If you don't have a defense to make plays, then you're going to let up big plays. So, in my estimation, I'm changing this now. The Bengals will beat the Patriots, and it'll be close. It'll be like 17-14, and that's going to be my prediction for Bengals-Patriots. And then the next game on that Saturday is Seahawks and Cardinals. I think, anyway. Oh, Seahawks-Cardinals. It's a game that's already happened twice. Seahawks whomped the Cardinals the last time they met. And that's exactly how I predict this game to go, even with the same score. I don't know what the score of that game was. That's the only reason why I said that. So go back and look at the score of that game if you want to know how I'm predicting Seahawks-Cardinals to go. Yeah, I'm predicting the Patriots and the Cardinals. Two teams of first-round byes that get knocked out. And that's not because I'm a Giants fan. That's because I'm an honest reporter. Damn it. And then we're going to take a look at the next game on Sunday. Redskins-Panthers. This game already happened in the regular season. And I'm going to do the exact same thing with this game that I did with Seahawks-Cardinals. Go take a look at the Panthers versus Redskins. And you give me one good reason why the Redskins put up even a slightest bit of a fight against the Carolina Panthers. They're not going to put up a fight, and it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be 42-0. Panthers over Redskins. That is my honest opinion. And then we move on to the second game and the last divisional game, Chiefs-Broncos. This game's already happened twice as well. So let's look at the last two times that the Chiefs faced the Broncos. Chiefs defense stepped up in a major way, and that's exactly how I'm picking this game. I'm picking it just like the last game. The Chiefs defense, too much for the Broncos offense. I don't care if you got Peyton Manning. I don't care if you got Brock Osweiler. I don't care if you got Joe Montana. I don't care if you got Frank Tarkenton. I don't care if you got Y.A. Tittle. I don't care if you got any quarterback in the history of the NFL. You're not winning this game against that Chiefs defense. And that's the bottom line because VengeanceHD said so. So let's move on to the conference round of the playoffs. Actually, I think that we forgot to do, what game? Yeah, Seahawks and Cardinals. Let me get down to the nitty-gritty here. The Cardinals, I like what they've been doing this season. They got Larry Fitzgerald working. They got the rest of the rest of their receivers working. They got a good running back set. I like the David Johnson, I think his name is. But Seattle, I mean, their defense is just suffocating, and their offense, it puts up too many points for you to come back and win a game. So before we move on to the conference round, I'm going to say that we go with the Seattle Seahawks to pull it out over the Arizona Cardinals. So basically what I'm telling you is 3 teams that got a first round bye will not make it into the championship round of the playoffs. You know, that's just my honest opinion. So, yeah, we got to get right into the conference championship games, which now I have to change, and I hope that I got everything right, and I think that I do. So yeah, I have Cincinnati and Kansas City facing off in the first game of the conference round of the playoffs, and I got Cincinnati losing to Kansas City, even though I just made a really strong argument for both teams in their respective games in the week prior in the divisional game. The statement that I used for Kansas City against the Broncos strongly applies here against Cincinnati. The Cincinnati offense, you know, you might look at it on paper and it might look good, but it's not going to be able to beat the secondary of the Kansas City Chiefs, because the Chiefs are just too good up front and they're too good in the secondary, and it's not going to be a very pretty game. I predicted to be low scoring relatively, so I'm going 14-10 in favor of Kansas City. And let's take a look at the NFC's premier matchup, the conference round. Seattle, Carolina. This is a matchup I know a lot of people have been itching to see. Seattle and Carolina, gonna be extremely good game. Seattle's got the offense, they got the defense. Carolina's got the offense, they got the defense. It looks like 2 completely similar teams going up against each other. Like, these teams look like you copy and paste it and then switch the faces. You know what I'm saying? Sure, there might be a few little differences, like Cam Newton is arguably better than Russell Wilson this season, even though I prefer Russell Wilson over Cam Newton, personally, because I'm not much of a dabber. But yeah, this one I have an interesting pick for. I say Seattle beats Carolina, and it's going to be 28-21. This game's going to be, I mean, I consider that a high-scoring game. So it's going to be high-scoring. It's going to be a defensive showdown, and I predict that there's going to be a fight in the field. And I want that to happen. I want a fight in the field for my NFC conference champion or conference round game. And then 2 weeks after that, we move to the big game. The Seattle Seahawks and the Kansas City Chiefs. Who would have thought at the beginning of the season that the 2-4 Seahawks and the 1-5 Chiefs would have made it to the Super Bowl against each other? Nobody but me, because I consider myself to be a genius. So Seattle and Kansas City, 2 teams who have had relatively good success in the postseason in previous years. Of course, Kansas City not making it nearly as far as they would like to. The Seattle Seahawks being to the Super Bowl for, if this is correct, 3 years in a row. And the Chiefs, in my opinion, will not be able to beat the Seahawks. Seahawks will go 2-3 in their 3 trips to the postseason, or in their 3 trips to the Super Bowl in the past 3 years. But that is just my opinion. I love the Kansas City Chiefs and I love the Seattle Seahawks. And I especially love them in the playoffs. So if these 2 teams play the way that I have them playing all the way through to Super Bowl 50, it's going to be high scoring. It's going to be a great defensive matchup. You got 2 really good offenses that look beautiful when they throw the ball, when they run the ball on the field. They got 2 good head coaches, Andy Reid and Pete Carroll. These 2 guys, they've been around the block a couple times. They know what they're doing, except, not the play, or, not the final play of the Super Bowl last year, but we're not talking about that. So as long as Seattle chooses to run the ball on the goal line, then we could see ourselves a Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl victory, and that is my prediction for the Super Bowl. So, oh man, that is going to be it for me. I tell you, this has been fun. So I hope that you guys enjoyed my playoff predictions running from wild card to Super Bowl. Please remember to comment down below your thoughts. I would love to hear what you guys have to say, and I especially want to hear what you guys have to say about the postseason, one of the most exciting times in football. So, like I said, please remember to comment down below, like the video, share it with all of your friends, get this video out there. I want as much feedback as I possibly can get on this video, because I love to interact with you guys. It's awesome. And subscribe for more, because that is the #1 way to help the channel. So, this is it for me, VengeanceHD, and I will see you guys on the flip side of the postseason when I upload my Super Bowl reaction video. And, you know, maybe the Seattle Seahawks and Kansas City Chiefs go, and if they do, I'm going to give you a big fat I told you so. So, like I said, this is it for me, VengeanceHD, and I'll see you guys in the next video.